Hello everyone, my name is Grant Garland, and I'm an intern for Cultural Connections. I'm a senior at the International High School of San Francisco. I love Model United Nations. I joined my high school's Model United Nations team when I was a freshman in high school, and have continued since. Through Model UN, I have found my passion for international relations. And I am currently the president of the Model UN team at my school. With loads of Model UN experience and conferences, it has become clear to me that one of the most difficult things when it comes to Model UN is position papers. Boy, have I had my share of struggling with them. For this reason, I thought I would make a video breaking down position papers and give you all some insight into how to do research, how to begin the writing process, and reach an amazing position paper. Now, I'm sure I felt how many of you feel right now about position papers. Confused, nervous, and stressed. I mean, let's be real. Position papers are supposed to be super academic, structured, and on a really difficult topic. When I had to write my first position paper, I had no idea where to even begin, and quite honestly, what the topic was, let alone my country's position on it. Now, this brings me to my first point and recommendation when it comes to position papers, beginning with research. Over the years, I have found that what helps me most in this process is breaking down things into little steps. Now, the first thing I do when I have my country assignment and my topic is ignore the topic completely at first and start learning as much as I can about the country that I'm representing. For example, I research government types, the country's history, population, where it's located, and where their borders are, who their neighboring countries are, what religions exist in the country, are there political parties, and if so, how many? Does the country have allies or enemies, etc.? I try to learn as much as I can. Now, this process helps me better understand the country that I'm going to represent in hopes to put myself in the shoes of a diplomat from that country. During this process, it's really important to take some notes so that you can bring them to the conference to help you. Once this is done, and you feel that you have a pretty good understanding of the country that you will be representing, you then want to move into breaking down the topic. For example, for one of my conferences, I was part of the Disarmament and International Security Council, or DISEC, and was assigned the topic of regulation of unmanned aerial vehicles and representing Vietnam. Does this topic sound confusing to you? Well, it certainly did to me when I first saw it. It seems like instinct to rush to Google and just copy paste the whole topic into the search bar and see what you can find. But like I said, with much experience, I would advise against doing that. Instead of taking the topic as a whole, I suggest breaking it down. For example, in my case, I started by researching just about unmanned aerial vehicles. I read about their history, the different types of UAVs, how they are used, whether governments use them, how they are built, and more. This built an understanding of the main part of the topic, making it easier to continue my research. I then took a swing at the word regulation and started researching laws against UAVs, government regulation of UAVs, whether UAVs could be used militarily, etc. In terms of sources, Google can be useful to gain a basic understanding for your topic and as a starting point. But when you start researching your country's position in relation to the topic, which is the next step, you want to use sources like Google Scholar, which can help you find more academic pieces on the topic. You'll want to look for primary sources of information for your country's position on the topic, such as documents posted by the governments on government websites, agreements and laws made, and speeches by diplomats. During this whole process, it's extremely important to save your sources. I mean, seriously. This concludes the basic research that I would recommend doing before writing. Writing position papers is hard, and especially if you don't know where to begin or have little knowledge on the topic. So, this basic research is the initial jump into the process. Now, once you have your basic research, we're going to want to take a look at what the format of a position paper is. The format of a position paper follows as such. The first paragraph is about topic background, and this is where you present what the topic is and define key terms and give a brief summary of the history of the issue. In this part, it's super important not to project into the future. All you're doing pretty much is saying, hey, I understand my topic. The next part of a position paper, and the next paragraph, is on past international action. You might be wondering what past international action means. Well, it means what actions have been taken in the past to deal with your topic by international organizations such as the UN. For this part, you would research if international organizations have ever discussed or made resolutions on your topic or issues, what they were, how significant these past actions were, and how effective they were. You also want to mention your country's past actions in regard to your topic. In my case, for example, with the topic of UAV regulation, I posed questions like, how has Vietnam dealt with UAVs in the past? How has the UN regulated UAVs on the international stage? And does the UN have any specific resolutions on UAVs? And if so, what they are and what they entail. Once you do your research, you want to combine what you learned and write about the past international action as well as your country's past action in relation to your topic. For this part, it is important to give the name of the exact resolution and cite the words written in it or the name of a law with the words written to be as specific as possible. The next part of your position paper and the next paragraph is on your country's policies. In this part, you're writing about your country's own unique stance on the topic and what they believe the international community should do to resolve the issue. You want to research things like, what are my country's current policies on my topic? Why do they have these policies? Have they been effective? And what does my country believe the international community should do? This is where you'll use the research you previously did using primary sources such as documents posted by the government websites, agreements and laws made, and speeches made by governments and officials in your country. For this part, it is super important not to project your own position on the topic, even if you might disagree with your country's views. Write about your country's stance and beliefs on the topic only. All right, we've reached the last paragraph and part of the position paper. If you're there, you're probably tired by now, but bear with me. The last paragraph is on possible solutions. In this final paragraph of the position paper, you'll want to use all that you have learned to formulate your own solutions to the issue and topic based on your country's perspective. This section is often the hardest. It's pretty much asking you to suggest policies or solutions to a very complex topic. For this section, what helps me is asking questions like, what do I think is missing on the international stage in relation to my topic and based on my country's position? What else would they most likely want to see? I also like looking at Model UN preambulatory clauses to help me with understanding the verbiage of UN solutions and resolutions. To find these, Google comes in handy, and you can just type in to Google preambulatory clauses for Model UN. Once you have your position paper written, the last and perhaps the most important thing to do left is citing your sources and creating a bibliography. Remember I said to keep all your sources throughout the process? Well, hopefully you did. And with all your sources that you've saved, you're going to want to sort them out into a proper format. The most accepted format is MLA 8 format. And this goes as author or authors. So you put the last name, then comma, the first name, then the title of the article or document, then a comma, then the website title, then another comma, then the publisher, then another comma, and lastly, the date it was published on. Now, with all that, you're almost done with your position paper. All you have to do left is make a title page or put the topic of your position paper at the top of the paper with your name, your country assignment, and the conference that you are going to. With all that, you can congratulate yourself because you have a position paper. Woo! Make sure to read over your paper a few times before submitting. Also, I would recommend printing it out to help you during your conference. I hope these tips helped, and good luck.